But the other thing over here reminds me that sometimes you just got to have the balls to go do sketchy shit, right?
That's right.
So that's Patty Brown and those guys hanging off that building. So it's cool to see both. I keep those things together to remind me that there's intelligence and education, and then you still need the balls to do things. So.
Responses, engine 5, engine 3, engine 1, ladder 3, ladder 2, rescue 1. We've got full showing. Division 1, you're on location, box 23, reporting smoke show on 727.
JobTlks podcast members and guests are not representative of any department, organization, or city.
That's 2.
Just before we started here, I want you guys to know that Mike's taking shots, so this should end up being a pretty interesting episode. Welcome back to JobTlks. Thanks everybody for tuning in once again. Might recognize a couple of people on the screen. Lieutenant Paul Morrison, who I work with, and then Deputy Mike Caddell. Both of them have been on for episodes talking about tech rescue in the past. Today we brought in Ian McGregor. Ian is now the president of the Massachusetts Association of Technical Rescue Specialists. Did I get it right?
Yes, sir.
All right. It's a mouthful. I want to make sure I say it right when we're on the camera.
We just abbreviate it M.A.T.R.S.
Like it. So thanks guys for coming on. I'm pretty excited to talk about this. One of the things is the M.A.T.R.S existed at one point in time and then kind of went away and kind of came back, and we'll talk about kind of what it is, what it does for the state. And real quick, Ian, you want to give us a little background on you? How you got in the fire service, what you do, where you're at, that kind of thing?
Sure. So I started because a friend of mine said, hey, you should come down to this cool call fire department in Rowley, Mass., the town I grew up in. And I was, just turned 18 years old in high school. And so I went with my friend down to the little call association meeting they were having that night. And he said, you just stand in the background of the room and stay quiet and just watch what happens. And then they'll vote you on. And then you just go to calls. It's awesome. It's fun. I said, all right, let's do it. So I stood in the back of the room, and the first thing that happened that night was the call fire chief and the 2 deputy fire chiefs who made up the town's board of fire engineers walked up to the front of the room, and all 3 of them in turn read resignation letters and then walked out of the room. And I looked at my friend and went, what do we do? Yeah. So that was the big impetus in the little town of Rowley to spark the selectmen to move into getting a full-time fire chief and kind of grow that department to actually be a combination department. So yeah, that was day one of my life.
So you did get voted in, though. You made it through after all that.
Yeah, it was pretty easy. They had 3 openings.
Nice. And your career now?
Yes. So that department put me through EMT school, and then on my own, I put myself through medic school, and then I had 2 options: sign as a Navy corpsman or sign for Amesbury Fire as a career firefighter, and I chose the Amesbury Fire one at the time. So I started in Amesbury, and I worked there for almost 14 years before my friends in Melrose said, you should come back here. Because ironically, Melrose was the first place I worked on a full-time ambulance as an EMT.
Wow.
Yeah, in 1998 when I got my EMT, I started for Action Ambulance in Melrose.
That's awesome. So
later.
How long have you been at Melrose now?
I went to Melrose in 2019.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
What got you into the tech rescue side of the job?
I had a background doing rock climbing and working with the AMC up in New Hampshire in the White Mountains, just kind of doing volunteer SAR work and that kind of a deal. Spent a lot of time outdoors. Got connected into teaching wilderness EMT and wilderness first responder with a group called M.A.T.R.S, Mountain Aid Training International, which was run by Dr. Matt Scholl, who's the director of emergency medicine at Maine Med, and Ted Curio, who was the director of emergency medicine at Mount Auburn. And they all had gone to Dartmouth Med School together, and so it was pretty cool. Got a lot of EMS wilderness education there. And in the fire service, I didn't have a lot more time to spend out in the woods. And the guy's like, oh, you should just do tech rescue here with the fire service. So I took the Fire Academy classes when I was, I don't know, sometime in the call department. And then when I started as a recruit instructor, there was some pressure to make sure you do more than just recruit. So tech rescue seemed like something that I'd taken. I enjoyed those classes. I had a background in doing SAR work and a lot of rope work. And so Mark McCabe at the time had taken over as the coordinator for the tech rescue program. So I just approached him and said, hey, I want to get on the tech rescue group. And he goes, great, we need people. So it was sometime around 2004-05, I think I started.
Wow,
there.
that's awesome. When did you start, Paul? Working for the tech rescue?
Just in general, like in the fire service?
No, at the academy. When did you start?
I think I've been with them for like 5 or 6 years now.
What about you, Mike?
I'm probably like 11 years in now. And
All right.
I mean, Ian was one of my instructors for several of my classes. It really is one of those things where you start taking the classes, you take all the classes, you take them a couple of times, you get to know all the guys, and they're like, stop taking the classes, come teach.
Yeah.
And that was kind of their selling point. Like, all right, yeah, you're cool. We've hung out with you. We've seen you a lot.
Seen you enough times.
Yeah, seen you enough times. You're cool. I think that was, probably more likely than not how we got Paul. That's what it is. But yeah, I mean, I think I took my first class in like 04, and I'm pretty sure Ian was the instructor. So
That's awesome. So for everybody that doesn't know, all four of us work for the State Academy in Massachusetts. I mostly do recruit. My intro into getting into, I don't want to call teaching tech rescue, assisting the teachers of tech rescue. Because I lobbied McCabe and said, he walked past me in the drill yard one day and I was like, hey, I got a question for you. I literally have no business teaching. I really don't know what I'm doing, but I'd like to get better. Can you take me on as a mentor? I'll be an asset in like 5 years, maybe. And he was like, to his credit, he let me on. I don't know why, legitimately, but here I am.
well, I mean, if you've got the passion and you want to teach and you want to learn, come on aboard. And I mean, that's one of the best ways to better yourself. I mean, we say it all the time. Every day I teach, I learn something new, and that could be from the student, it could be from, fellow instructors. I'm going to learn something new every day.
Yeah,
And,
definitely.
right? Just being a student of the craft is huge.
Paul, how long were you doing tech rescue before you started teaching? I know it was quite a while, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, nothing organized, but when I was on with you before, I talked about one of the mentors that I had on my previous job, and he had done some pretty cool rope stuff, and he ended up being like I'm not sure what his actual title was, but he was like the assistant director of Plymouth County Tech Rescue, Dave Levinson, and he's a real sharp guy. And I just started like taking classes similar to Mike's story, and that like just taking classes at the State Academy. At the time, there wasn't a lot of other places that you could go. I got on the job, I think, for the most part before the internet. So all of the postings were in paper, on the wall. So you would sign up to classes and go to state classes. And eventually I just decided, similar to, like what Mike said, is I was like, I can just keep taking classes, or I can become an instructor and just literally learn from osmosis, being exposed to these guys all the time, So
Yeah, definitely. Do all three of you have the technical rescue specialist certification?
yes.
Okay, I thought so. So, when do you guys want to tell us what that is, just for people that are wondering? Because there's only a certain number of them in the country, right?
What was it? 267, 270? I don't know. What is it? It's from Texas A&M, TEKS. It's pretty much Texas's like fire academy. They're like fire college. A phenomenal place. Phenomenal place. They have just, their campus is ridiculous. They have fighting props. They have oil field props. They do everything. And it's just not for the country. It's around the world. USAR teams from around the world will go there to take classes.
And through that, there's only 270-ish that have that certificate, like that full certification?
Yeah.
I think we were in that band. They're probably over 300 now, but I bet it's not much more.
Yeah.
When from the time you decided that was like a certification you wanted to pursue to attaining it, what kind of like timeline and like amount of classes are you talking about for something like that, just to give people an idea of what that certification actually is?
Well, it's there what, 5 classes that you have to complete, and then there's like electives. You have to do 2 electives or 1 elective
Yeah.
through them.
And
Yeah.
but
So
before you take it, do you already have to have like
yeah, so you
basic
need to
like
have
rope tech and all that stuff?
so you have to have like rope pro board or the equivalent. You have to have the FEMA equivalent structural collapse 80 hour. And then to get the actual certification, you have to take advanced structural collapse 3, 4, and 5, which is advanced interior shoring, exterior shoring, and what's
Be-
5 yeah, advanced breaching and braking. And then you got to take an elective, which it could be outside or inside their program or something that they deem worthy. I think it like swift water rescue,
Oh,
wide
okay, gotcha.
area search. So you could take that from an outside agency, but as long as you show them, hey, yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it ends up being what, like, I guess close to 300 hours. Does
Yeah.
that seem
It's a lot of
fair?
hours to put in.
Sounds about right.
It's a lot of 8-hour days.
Well, I mean,
Paul, real quick, I want to change the subject for a half a second. Are you crushing a Jocko drink right now? So just so everybody knows, it is 8:25 p.m. and we just started. Mike's doing shots of something, and Paul's drinking Jocko drinks.
I'm not having shots. It was a beverage. I'm sorry. It's like Andre the Giant. The glass is real small in my hand. I apologize.
I love it.
In fairness, we might as well share with the world the rumor about me at work, right?
That you
That I
don't
don't,
sleep.
yeah, that I don't sleep. And some people believe that I sleep in a closet hanging upside down. So
I know it to be true.
Both, I was gonna say, both are reasonable. Both are reasonable for sure.
I've
So
witnessed
much
it.
more done all night.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, they say that they start projects and then they magically finish overnight when everybody else is sleeping.
yeah, I'm like the Keebler rescue elf.
I like. Oh wait, I think we're gonna change your official title then, Paul. So you guys all got into taking the classes together. Obviously, definitely developed a friendship through the whole thing, which is awesome. When you started way back when I definitely was barely out of high school.
Shit.
Wait, no, 2004. I was deployed in 2004. All right, that's a little bit better. Still barely out of high school though. Did MATRS exist back then?
No, M.A.T.R.S officially came to be. Their first like meeting was 2014, like the beginning of 2014, when they got together, and it really was kind of like a conglomerate from all around, because that was when there was an initial talk about turning the existing kind of tech rescue system into some sort of a state system. The
Okay,
talk
gotcha.
about creating something to mirror the hazmat system the state had. And the hazmat system has the Hazmat Association that runs trainings and helps to, further the whole hazmat system through both legislative work and running the hazmat conference annually, which then became actually part of the hazmat tech in the state system. Their almost required training became something that the Hazmat Association was running. So the brainchild actually kind of through the Fran Clark world, so him and Mark McCabe and a number of people who showed up to kind of this first meeting when they had this brainchild, and they really did get representations from everywhere. They had obviously Franny was from Hopkinton, and that he was part of the District 14 team. Mark McCabe being down from Norfolk, being part of them. You had Mike Eval from the Cape. You had Eric Pepper from up our way in the Essex County team. You had Rebecca Booton from the Western Mass. Nick Lambert from District 7 area. Chris Ebert from Plymouth County team was there. Pete Jerusik from Western Mass. He was there. Sean Simmons, who's now the chief in Norton, was part of this. Greg Smith from Plainville. And then you had Chief Belcito and Chief Nord and Chief Mansfield. They were all kind of big pushes to start this whole kind of thing.
Real quick,
yeah.
Ian, just for people that aren't from Massachusetts that might be watching this, the way our state runs right now, and I think it might be changing a little bit. Maybe I have that wrong. You can talk about that later. But we run districts for certain things. So some of the bigger cities might staff and field their own tech rescue companies or their own hazmat companies. But the state breaks up into districts, and in the areas where some of the smaller towns exist that can't put a team together by themselves, they kind of take people from all the departments in their district, and that makes up a district team, right?
Yeah. It just came out of necessity from smaller departments, and it didn't even start at the state level. It started at that local level. Local departments talking to each other. So across the state, it was formed. In the southeast, it was formed by old county lines that existed.
Yep.
Different communities within a county. In the central Mass area, it was formed by fire district lines. So they had fire district lines. In Western Mass, it was basically just everybody out west with the dragons. So nobody, that's just how they.
Yeah, it was definitely either based on the fire district, it was based off of the county.
Yeah.
Right, like right now, like Southeast Tech Rescue is built off of what, 4 or 5 counties, right? So it's kind of Massachusetts. We just kind of make it happen however we can, wherever we are.
And M.A.T.R.S was was designed to kind of solve the problem of having some overarching representation for all those groups.
Yes, and get involved in the kind of legislative process to help push forward the coordination of all of this, because these groups had all existed for a number of years and they all were kind of on their own to figure out funding and coordination and operation. And so the whole concept of, wow, wouldn't it be great if it was a little more organized from the state level down? And obviously the big one was funded from the state level down.
So does the state provide funding to M.A.T.R.S, or is it just through memberships?
No. M.A.T.R.S is fully funded through memberships and any type of corporate donations or members paying to attend seminars or any education events that we do.
Okay. And just so people know, I don't think I mentioned it in the beginning, but Ian is the president of M.A.T.R.S right now.
Mike is soon to be the board, the vice president at the next.
Yeah, we
board
decided right before the episode that he was being promoted.
Yes.
And
I
actually,
thought that happened when we brought it back.
Yeah.
Just nobody told you, Mike. That's all.
Wouldn't be the first.
And Paul actually got a promotion during the episode too, because he went from cheerleader of M.A.T.R.S to Keebler Elf of Tech Rescue. I feel like that's a big. You went from like local organization to global organization.
Take it.
Well, he'll bring the tasty treats to the next board meeting.
I like it.
Within the M.A.T.R.S bylaws, we can create membership levels. The board of directors can do that. So we could literally vote a Keebler Elf position and just give it to Paul.
Do I have to second, or how does it work?
I'll second the motion. Discussion?
I guess I need a hat. I need one of those hats.
That's awesome. So M.A.T.R.S went away a handful of years back, and that was that like during COVID?
Yeah, it just kind of started to fall apart. So between like the 2019, what happened was from 2014 to 2018, there was this big push. We were starting to have meetings, and the legislation got passed in 2018, and then the system was to start. And everybody just like, oh, great, they passed legislation at the state level. Now they're going to state tech rescue teams, and then everything's going to be great. And it has still been going on and hasn't been, put up and running. So M.A.T.R.S just kind of sat there and kind of flubbled around. The key leadership members just kept dwindling and dwindling and dwindling. So it was basically, like Chief Belcito and myself, and, Ebert occasionally, when you get him on the phone, would be like, yeah, don't worry, I still got the checking account. We have money. Like, okay. Well, let's do something with it. And it wasn't until we finally, like Mike and Scott and a number of people were really pushing to say, you guys have an organization and we want to do like some phenomenal, cool training and events and activities. And I said, yeah, I know, we used to.
Right.
And then we just lost all the board members who kind of spearheaded it. And they were still, tech rescue people out there across the state, firefighters out there were like, yeah, we'll go to something. We just needed people willing to put something together, all that work behind the scenes to make it happen.
When did you start back up officially?
Officially became incorporated because M.A.T.R.S never went through the process of getting 501c3 and all that. So we officially did it technically during COVID. It was I think our official 501c3 creation is June of 2020.
Wow.
So that was kind of the restart. But I would say from that 2018 was the big push to say, hey, we started this thing. Let's really make it something. Because it was just kind of floundering there after legislation passed. And
yeah, we tried back in 18 and 2019. CMC hosted the first Grimp Day North America, and a group of us were like, hey, we should put together a team and try to go. And we ended up, the discussions were, are we going to be the Mass Fire Academy Tech Rescue, right? Like, who's going to be kind of our organization? Because it was, a handful of us who share the passion, wanted to maybe go out and compete as a team, but we didn't have an organization. All right, well, we have M.A.T.R.S. All right, well, M.A.T.R.S will have a competition team. So we submitted the application and we were selected as the alternate American team. And a group of us went out to LA for the first Grimp Day North America in 2019.
Sick.
Yeah, no, it was an awesome trip. We met so many awesome people. We got to firsthand knowledge on, the ins and outs of, all right, well, this is a tech rescue competition. Okay, yeah, we did. And then, of course, we're sitting there and we're watching the teams and we're like, oh, no, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't. Oh, well, that's a good that's a good technique. That's a good trick, right? And I think I got to use the clutch before it was even out, even before it was posted online, oh, here's a new device coming out. They were letting people use it. So it was just a great experience. And I think that helped bring more people in. Like Ian said, all the board members kind of started moving away, right? Everybody here knows that everyone has so many different irons in the fire. And for a lot of the people, M.A.T.R.S went on the back burner, or they just couldn't do it anymore. So it kind of helped breathe more life into a new board and to try to bring it back. And then through that, it was, all right, we didn't get selected. All right, why don't we do something? Why can't we do this, right? Why can't we do this here in Massachusetts? So I think that was another step in bringing the organization back to life and trying to breathe new life into the tech rescue stuff here for the Commonwealth.
How many? So what Mike's talking about, you guys did end up bringing back, and so I'm aware of you've done 2 of them since you guys kind of reformed, right? Some pretty notable places.
Two events,
2 competitions.
Not really.
No, there's more.
No, we don't like to call them competition.
I'm sorry, that's right. 2 skills assessment days.
Call it a MOBEX, a joint, a statewide training event. Yeah, we've done 2.
Challenge. I think we settled on challenge. Didn't we?
Yes, it was a challenge, right? The first year we were in Six Flags, it kind of got lost in translation to a lot of the team leaders across the state, and there was a little hesitation. So we had the UASI Metro Boston team send some people, and Six Flags out in Springfield, we had a large contingent of the Western Mass team, and that went off really well. It was a phenomenal day. It was well received. telephone, telegraph, telefirefighter, the word spread, and people across the state were kind of like, why didn't we go? Why didn't I know about that? So then I I I don't know how, but last year we did Fenway Park. Like we had Fenway Park. Like you've got like you got a couple of scrubs here. Like who are we? We're just a bunch of no-name firefighters, and somehow we put together Fenway Park, and we had right with the legislation. There's going to be the 5 regional teams. We had all the teams, all the regions represented. A separate team from Boston. I think we had over 100 rescue specialists from across the state, close to 50, 60, dignitaries, chief officers, state representatives, people from the fire marshal's office all attend. And by far one of the greatest things I think can honestly say that we've been a part of.
Yeah, it was pretty sick. I didn't obviously participate, but I went to watch the events, and it was pretty cool. Paul, you led a team. Did you lead a team at Six Flags or just the one at Fenway?
I was invited to be on the Boston team at Six Flags, and then when they decided to do the Fenway Challenge, because it was they used a great deal of logistics from Boston to help. So I think they decided that Boston could have their own team, and then UASI would have a team. So I captained the UASI team.
That's awesome. What do you think about the sorry, I keep calling it the wrong word. What do you think about the challenge? Like, do you want to tell people a little bit about what you guys did? Because it was.
Who do you want Mike to tell it, or
No, go for it, Paul. Or it doesn't matter to me. Anyone.
You went around all the stations. You successfully completed all the challenges we gave you.
Yes. So we had a rescue off the we rappelled off the Green Monster. So this happened in no particular order because everybody had to rotate around. So we had to do some rope work over at the Green Monster. We had to take somebody down off of a light tower on top of the press box, which was a lot of fun because we did diagonal movement, which is not new to the people that work in the wilderness rope rescue world. But for those of us that work in an urban environment, there's not a lot of high line, horizontal or diagonal movement. So we did some skate blocks, or hybrid skate blocks. So people were definitely challenged. We were spinning people up on techniques like in real time. I mean, everybody that I work with on my team, I would absolutely trust completely trust my life with them completely. But there were things that they were seeing for the first time. And the reason why we all felt confident and safe is because these guys are just incredible practitioners, and they can be spun up on things in short amounts of time. And I think you and I talk about this a great deal. It's really just concepts. You know what I mean? Like there might be a new way to do something. There might be a new gadget, but the art behind it and the concepts are kind of everlasting. So you just tell somebody like, this replace that device. We're going to do this way, and most people that take this seriously can grasp that information, I think, pretty quickly.
Don't forget, though, we gave you an elevator, a blind shaft elevator rescue, just for you urban tech rescue guys, so that everybody had a fair shot, right? The Western Mass Wilderness guys had no problem with these diagonals. Oh, this is perfect. And then they're like, elevators?
Yeah, we don't have
intentional,
3-story building.
Yeah.
Right.
And the Western Mass guys did an excellent job. So it just so happened that there were 2 elevators adjacent to one another. And so we were doing our elevator, and Western Mass was right beside us. And we used completely different techniques to solve basically the same problem. One of the things that I insisted on with my folks was that I wanted them to operate in the smallest footprint possible, because when you're setting up a system in an elevator lobby in an apartment complex, there's not a lot of long hallways where you can go get an anchor or do these massive haul fields. So I insisted that they practice the way they play, and it was challenging, but these guys are great at it.
So if you haven't been to Fenway, the elevators kind of butt up to the walking ramps, right? So you come off the elevator, and if you wanted to, you could set up a what is it? Got to be like 75 feet at least,
Yeah.
right? You have a 75-foot haul field. And so instead of taking advantage of that, which I think is awesome because I think that's why tech rescue people are tech rescue people, but instead of taking advantage of that easy avenue for haul fields and higher ratio, mechanical advantage and stuff, you bring it into, hey, we're going to work within our footprint just like we would if we were in a high rise going through a blind shaft.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing, so it sounds like it's intentionally structured to have stations that might be seen more frequently, in some parts of the state, and stations that might be seen more frequently in other parts of the state. So everybody gets a little bit of what they're more familiar with, but then also has to solve problems that just require them to think of solutions that they might not do on a day to day.
Yeah. And I think the guys that planned it built into the day that I was supposed to take a person from my team and put them over at, I don't want to use the word opposition, but at the other, they were supposed to be shadowing the other team to pick up their concepts and the way that they do things. And I did a terrible job at that. Like I was just like keeping my people with me and whatever. But like, so I didn't do a good job of being like, go over there and watch what they do. But I was watching, so it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and like the whole premise of it is, I mean, you just look at our state. There are so many different environments that we're going to find ourselves in that there are a lot of teachable moments that we can go. You can go an hour and a half away and you're in a totally different world. So
Completely.
the skills and techniques that one team might use all the time, the other teams might not see it. So it's, building up camaraderie amongst the state teams, building up skill levels. Like, oh, hey, we were at Six Flags and the Western Mass, they have the big slingshots, right? So they can send a messenger line across, a ravine or a cavern, right? Boston and you guys in Cambridge, we don't have that, right? We really might not have the need for that. But at Six Flags, the Boston Metro team, they probably should have had one. And if we can put together something to spark the team to make a little change on a way they do things so they can do things more efficient, safer. I mean, that's kind of like the whole idea, going back to what Ian's saying on why M.A.T.R.S was created. That's kind of like our mission is, all right, we're going to bring together like-minded individuals, right? We're going to try to share knowledge, share that institutional knowledge and make everybody better and make everybody safer. So the teams working together, what are we going to have a 35 alarm fire for, Central Mass to come into,
Yeah,
Metro
the
Boston?
whole city's going if that's the case. Yeah.
Right. I mean, the only time I can think that something like that happened was, what was it, 2011 with the Springfield tornadoes, right? Newton sent an engine and a ladder into Springfield
It's crazy.
to help assist, right? So a major disaster like that, I think the whole idea with having a statewide resource is for, those quote unquote once in a lifetime events that kind of seem to happen more and more often.
Yeah, definitely. I like Paul always gives the definition of the rescue company. I'm going to butcher it, Paul, so you can correct it. That your job is that somebody's going to find themselves in trouble, and your job is to get them out of it, right? And
I need to constantly be put as a boss in the rescue. I have to constantly be thinking of ways and preparing my people so that I can put them anywhere that a human can get.
that's
Right.
it right there, right?
If that means it's on a crane, if that means it's on a plane, if that means they're in a boat, if that means they're under a boat.
It is
Right?
Dr. Seuss week. I want you to know that. You were nailing that right now.
And we were
I didn't
talking
even
about
realize
Springfield.
that.
So
Yeah.
we got Springfield, Dr. Seuss.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
But seriously though, and I like the way that you look. If a human can get there, or even get a part of themselves in that space, then you have to have a way to remove them or it safely, right? So
Yeah, I mean, you hear me preach probably more than you'd like to, right?
no, definitely not. But
He says right now.
But I think in order to be able to do that, one, you have to have the right mindset, right? And we've all talked ad nauseum about that. There's a mindset that goes to it, but exposure to all the different stuff, right? So maybe that's not applicable, or maybe it's not something you might see every day in the city that you see out west, or vice versa. But maybe there's still the potential of needing to do that, or maybe you get called out randomly to go help because there's a tornado or a flood or a massive building collapse or something like that. And now you're dealing with stuff that's outside of what you see every day. So the exposure is definitely beneficial for tech rescue.
And going back to what Mike was saying about the evolution out at Six Flags, that was more challenging for us in the Metro Boston area than maybe it might have been for the guys that are out west. The fact that we adapted in that time, like we came back and we were like, we weren't prepared for that kind of stuff. So we then used that time to adapt. And I'm extremely proud of like the advancements that we made as a team and our ability to do diagonal movement as a result of that. So like every training opportunity, you look at that, you identify gaps, and you go back and you study and you get the equipment that you need, and you bone up and you get better. And so in a year's time, we got a great deal better as a result of that. And so I think that's kind of what it's all about.
Yeah, I remember talking to you, Paul, and then all the other guys on that team, and everyone was saying the same thing. The car ride home, like the van ride home, was awesome because everyone was pumped. They had a great time, and they were using that as like the after action report, right? It's not formal, there's nothing formal about it, but in that time you're like, we could have done this, or how about if we did it this way? All right, what can we do better in the future? And like that's the whole point of like M.A.T.R.S and putting on these challenges for the team. And it was awesome to hear, all right, you guys had like an hour and a half ride home, maybe 2 hour ride home back to the, metro area. And I would have loved to have been in that van just to be part of those conversations and just to hear what you guys were saying. But it makes it very worthwhile, to be a part, to put these things on and then get that kind of feedback.
Right.
Just think about the Western Mass team. They had like 5 hours, trying to go back to the Dragonland.
Well, they had to go
All
back
the
to
way
East
west.
Albany.
Yeah.
Oh, those poor guys. Honestly, when you think about it, really, we say like, oh, elevators, oh, that wasn't, but really, Springfield is incorporated in the Western Mass team. They have members from, Springfield's the third largest city in the state. So, they get really, that team really gets the full gamut. The majority of their call volume are out in the woods going out to find hikers that are down and ravines and all over the place. And yet they have members on the team that are doing urban work all the time too. So they're getting a good mix of everything.
Right. So is the plan to do one of these challenges every year?
Yeah, I think so. At least one a year. I don't know if we can pull off two, but we're gonna.
Yeah, that seems just witnessing from the outside, the logistics seem pretty incredible. And it took a fair amount of support from some of the fire departments too, right? So you were saying, like, I think Paul was saying, like, the Boston helped a lot with the logistics and things like that.
Yeah, Captain Sean Donovan from Boston Fire, I think he's now on a company, but at the time he was the captain of a SOC. He had, the connections at Fenway Park, through Boston Fire doing details during events and Sox games and whatnot. So, kudos to him. He did a ton of the legwork and meeting with, his brass and then meeting with all the big wigs at Fenway to make that happen. All the credit to him for securing that for us. But yeah, then getting out and going to Fenway and then being able to do, test runs to make sure some of the things and ideas that we had were actually feasible and like, can we do this? Can we
Right.
bring 6 teams in and actually make it happen? with Six Flags, we're teaming up with Agawam Fire because, Six Flags is technically in Agawam. It's not Springfield. So, it's kind of that closed group that we're in, the fire service, and narrow it down even more with the technical rescue side. With the academy, we teach all over the state. So, we got a lot of contacts. We make friends everywhere. So that's kind of how we're doing these things.
And then
You make
reaching out
friends?
to
I just want to
staff.
clarify that.
Acquaintances.
You meant
Acquaintances become
other
friends.
people make friends. I got it. I got you.
Yeah. No, and all the staff, right? So, we just call them green shirts because we gave them bright green shirts for the first event, and that just kind of stuck.
Yep.
But basically, they're the controllers at each of the events, right? So you've got safety personnel, and you've got a controller that the team's going to meet and get a briefing as to what they have to do, and then we stage safety personnel, and obviously those safety personnel have to know what they're doing, so they're making sure. So those are all tech rescue specialists anyway. Well, they have to come from somewhere, and they often come from these teams. So that's almost a line you have to kind of find of, okay, well, who can participate as a safety personnel? Because that's taking away often highly skilled members of some of these teams. So, it's a line. We've been very lucky actually to get a couple of our friends through the Mass Fire Academy who teach with us who aren't necessarily either members of state tech rescue teams in Massachusetts or who are from our neighbors in Rhode Island. And they're tech rescue specialists from Rhode Island, and they're like, "Oh, my team's not coming here to participate in this event, but hey, and so that's a huge thing. Scott Jensen was basically the huge right hand man for Mike Caddell to coordinate and plan these logistics, and teaching with us on a regular basis and working on the heavy rescue company in Warwick. So it's that like has the knowledge, has the background, and I think even honestly, a lot of the logistical side of coordinating these events comes from a lot of our experience with figuring out the logistics around teaching tech rescue classes, because you figure out and you learn over time all these little nuances and these little, okay, well, how many people is it really going to take to do this and manage this, and how big, what can be our team size cutoffs, how many safety personnel, where are we going to need to stage them, because running live tech rescue training through the Mass Fire Academy gives you the opportunity to see that. And then obviously a lot of us too are involved in training coordinators through our departments or through our teams. So running those type of evolutions.
Yeah, there's a ton of for anything, right? But there's a ton of logistics that goes into it. And I think it's good to talk about, because you show up on the day and there's just a nationally recognized baseball field ready for you guys to rappel off one of the most iconic sports features, in the country, and then they don't realize
I was
As you should have been.
absolutely. I can't tell you how many people I talked to that did that. I mean, it probably wasn't that many, but every single person was like, that was cool. Like that's like a mental picture moment.
Yeah. Like, who can say they rappelled off the Green Monster?
Right. Only a few people.
100 something now.
100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
did
don't
a
want
little
to.
presentation about it at the E63, the International Technical Rescue Symposium that's run every year.
Yeah.
And so last November, I did a short little presentation about our M.A.T.R.S event there, and the number of people who came up to me after that, like, you got to rappel off the Green Monster at Fenway. People from like California, like, oh my god.
Right. It's like nationally recognized, like, feature in the sports world in the country. It's pretty sick. I don't know if it's like secret or if you guys have anything at all or don't have anything, but do you guys have you guys already started planning for the next one? Okay, so I got you. All right, sounds good. I'll take the hint. I get it. What do you see for like the future of M.A.T.R.S? Like, is it are you, I know that there've been talk about changing from like the 14 districts to 5 whatever stuff like that in the state. Is M.A.T.R.S going to be kind of behind all that stuff, or what obviously we know what M.A.T.R.S is, but going forward, like, in the future? What's the
So technically, our bylaws were already created originally to manage the state system as it rolls in. The way the bylaws are written in M.A.T.R.S is the board of directors is made up of 15 members, and they're elected by the membership at large. So all of the voting membership gets to vote for the board of directors, and then the board of directors amongst themselves basically selects their principal officers, and we elect half of the board every year. So on even years, we are to elect 8 members. On odd years, we elect 7 members. And ironically, we're never full. Like, we still have one open seat. We only have 14 members right now. So elections are kind of like, who put their hand up? Great. We almost have enough. All right. Hopefully next year's one more person will put their hand up. That's unfortunately it goes. But the bylaws are written that when the state creates state technical rescue teams, that those board of directors seats, there will be 2 board of directors seats for each region, and any remaining seats will be at large.
Okay.
So it was made so that it would try to make sure that the board of directors was truly represented of all of the tech rescue regions across the state.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
I
awesome.
mean, it was great foresight. I mean, those we made some modifications, but that was back in like 2015 or 16 that they made those, bylaws originally with that whole plan that, M.A.T.R.S would be truly the state voice for the boots on the ground tech rescue. Yes, there's a state technical rescue coordinating council and people are appointed by the governor that sit on that board, but this was truly supposed to be the grassroots, boots on the ground, guys out there in the trenches doing the work, having an organization where they can have a say. They can create legislative committee, go to the state house, lobby for whatever they're looking for specifically on tech rescue, and to run and coordinate trainings and bring in speakers. I think that's our other side of where we see M.A.T.R.S. We used to run a seminar. We did about 3 of them, seminar annually. So we hope we can get back to running a large kind of, challenge event every year and a seminar. If we can run a seminar in the spring and a challenge event in the fall, and then we try to travel around the state so everybody has an opportunity to just have an open meeting. So your members of M.A.T.R.S are welcome, but anyone else can just come to the meeting and bring in a guest speaker, have the teams from that region present on any interesting rescues or calls that they did, and just, lessons learned. It's huge. It goes great across the state with everybody. M.A.T.R.S tries to provide some food for that, a way to give back using the members' dues, and of course, it's
that's how you get
firefighter event.
I was gonna say that's how you get firemen in the door, right? You got to put some
we
put some
provide
food
the
and booze on the
and,
table.
There's a bar over there.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, like, what we're kind of trying to do is, do something every 4 months, right? So we had something back in January down in Brockton. It was good. We had, brought in a speaker. We had food. The group, everybody got to talk. Last fall, we had kind of like a 2-day event. The night before Fenway Park, we had an event. We had some manufacturer representatives there. They can showcase any of like the new equipment that they have. So teams and people can see what's out there. It's really just trying to bring like-minded individuals together. Let's share some knowledge. Let's learn from each other. Try to make things a lot safer and just better our people.
That's it right there, man. Just be better for the time the person puts themselves in the weird position, and you got to be the one to go in there and get them, right?
Yeah, 100%. Right? They're going to call if somebody's stuck in, under, over, right?
Right.
They're going to call it. We're going to get called, and we're going to be put in really bad spots. And if we can help make it so everyone goes home and we can make a good rescue, then, our job's done.
Yeah. I mean, that's why the fire service exists, like, period, right? Is to get somebody out of a situation that they shouldn't have been in, right? I think we're kind of coming up on an hour. It feels like a decent, like, natural wrapping up point. But do you want to tell, hopefully, obviously, I really want to do this because the podcast is fairly local, right? I'm not, I mean, hopefully people listen all over the country because you guys have a lot to say, and a lot of stuff to pass on, but a lot of it's here in New England and in Massachusetts. So what I'm hoping is that people will watch it from this area that maybe didn't know about M.A.T.R.S or were curious about what it was or whatever the case is and show up, maybe to the next speaking event or something like that. So can you just tell people how to find it and what they need to do to be notified of meetings or any events or anything that's going on?
Yeah, Mr. President.
Yeah. Matters.org.
That's M-A-T-R-S, right?
MATRS.org. Yep,
And what are
keeping it simple.
the dues are super reasonable too.
It's $35 a year. There's an initial $50. So the first year you sign up, it's $50 and they give you a t-shirt and a sticker. But hey, you get a t-shirt and a sticker and you might get
And a meal. And a meal.
Yeah. Well, you get meals every time you show up to events because we basically just decided we're providing food. Yeah, and then it's $35 annually. Honestly, we don't even see a need to raise the dues. It's not there's not a big cost to the organization, for us to run. And everybody obviously is volunteer. Nobody who coordinates this is getting paid any money. There's no salaries for anybody. It's completely a nonprofit where all of the money is just returned to the events that we do. Sometimes we end up paying speaker fees and all of that, but that's about it. If anything goes outside of our budget, then we use the money to offset, as much as we can, and then we'll charge a minimal amount for attendees. I think one time we charged like $25 to come to the seminar, and we had like 4 or 5 skill stations out there they could do with different people we paid to be there.
And I think outside of like listening to a speaker and outside of actually participating in the challenges and stuff, a big part of like in the fire service in general is the social aspect, right? They're a good place for you to get out and meet like-minded people, talk about the job, socialize, network. I mean, I wouldn't, I probably wouldn't know Mike if I didn't have, if I didn't know Paul, or I wouldn't know Ian if I didn't, you know what I mean? So like, all that stuff is important, getting out and socializing, building the network, and then strengthening the brotherhood.
And that's what it is, and that's what it's all about.
I love it. All right, so any final thoughts, Ian? Any final thoughts going out?
I just we try to do a much better job now with the new board of keeping the website up to date. The next event is slated to be out in Western Mass. I believe Daryl put his hand up. Wasn't Daryl saying he was going to do it? Oh, he was just saying.
Oh, the next
the next
M.A.T.R.S event, not the next challenge. Yep.
Yeah, no, right. Our next M.A.T.R.S kind of meeting get together where everybody is welcome to come, even if you're not a member, because you can come there, hang out with us. You can even eat our food, and then we'll just convince you to join and be a member.
Now that you've ate our food,
right?
Now's you can't leave.
Mike, what about you? Any parting words?
No, just we're just trying to keep the organization growing. Really, just trying to get the message out there, and just keep training. Be on the lookout. Hopefully, in the next couple of weeks, we'll start sprinkling some stuff out we're looking maybe at September. It's gonna probably be down in the South Shore. I think I'm going to meet Scott the week of St. Patrick's Day to do a site visit. We might incorporate more than just rope skills for the next event. So it should be hopefully another successful event. But yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
As a kid from the South Shore, I don't mean to split hairs with you, Mike, and I do love you, but I think they call that the South Coast.
The South Coast?
Yes.
Okay. The South Coast. Okay.
Very territorial.
That particular location.
Because you know where we're thinking, right?
I do. Well, okay. I mean, unless something changed. But
no. Okay. All right. Well, as long as I can get my terminology right, I don't want to offend anybody.
I'm trying to give hints.
Once in your life, Mike.
Yeah.
I'm trying to give hints without giving it away. That's what's happening.
I got it. I think I got it. Paul, anything from you before we go?
I appreciate you having us on. I love every opportunity that I have to be around these guys. Like I said, I've learned a tremendous amount just from like osmosis, just being around these guys. And it's not lost on me, right? Like Mike said, when he was taking classes, Ian was his instructor, right? And then when I got hired at Mass Fire Academy, Tech Rescue, Mike was my mentor. Then you came on, I was your mentor. So this is generational. You know what I mean?
That's cool.
It's it's an incredible community, and not to talk about the money because the money means nothing, but like for 35 bucks to be around these guys and to be around other people that you wouldn't see otherwise and talk about really cool shit. And not, we do so many things in the fire service where we get together and we talk about sad things or difficult things. And just like I said, being around these guys, it's a blast. It's a blast. And I'm lucky to work with them, and I'm lucky to teach with them. And every chance that I can get, I'll go away with these guys and we'll take classes, and they're awesome people. So.
Yeah, it really is generational, as you say, like maybe not, like as you typically think of it, but like people coming into the fire service. And I didn't even put that together or think of that when you just said it. So that's, it's a really cool way to look at it.
Yeah, maybe the old guy.
Seasoned.
Oh, seasoned.
Seasoned. Yeah.
Yeah. We're the old guys now.
It's why I feel old.
When we get people in class that I've been on the job longer than they've been alive.
Yeah.
We're at that point now. It's like, oh my Lord.
Yeah.
Come on.
I actually had just met up with a couple buddies from my old job earlier today, and they were talking about the new hires, and one of them, they were talking about 9/11 somehow came up and like, oh, where were you? And he was like, I was like 3 months old. And you're just like, he's like, I just felt like I got punched, like, oh my God. Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's crazy, right? Crazy. So guys, honestly, I really appreciate you guys coming on here and being willing to share the knowledge that you guys have. As I told Mark McCabe, and I stand by, I really have no business doing this. I just enjoy it and get to be around some cool people. So I appreciate you guys coming on and talking to me about it.
Yeah, don't worry. We all feel the same way. We have no business doing it. And like Paul said, it might be a job, but as Paul says, I just want to do hood rat shit with my friend.
That's hood rat. I might title the episode that hood rat shit with my friends.
So the one thing that I do want to point out, because Mike pointed out our certs in the background, but the reason why I have these things behind my head, right, is because it reminds me all the time of this thing right here took a lot of effort and a lot of education and a lot of work. But the other thing over here reminds me that sometimes you just got to have the balls to go do sketchy shit, right?
That's right.
So that's Patty Brown and those guys hanging off that building. So it's cool to see both. I keep those things together to remind me that there's intelligence and education, and then you still need the balls to do things.
I fucking love that, dude.
Time to do some sketchy shit. Hope I get away with it.
Could not think of a better way to wrap it up. Doing hood rat shit and doing sketchy shit with my friends. That's it. That's what the fire service is about in general. So
yeah.
With that, everybody, thank you very much. We're gonna wrap it up, but hopefully this won't be the last time you see any of these three guys either on a podcast, at a M.A.T.R.S meeting, out and about in the streets doing their thing. So again, thank you guys, and thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next one.